I absolutely love this shawl using the Hawthorne Tonal and the Hawthorne Speckled. When I saw these two yarns in the We Crochet online store, I knew I had to have them. I really felt like the tones in the speckle would also be amazing with this Hawthorne Tonal, and I could not be happier with the results. I love these little tassels. I think they're fun, and I can see myself using this one and layering this one a lot. So in my stash, I also found some more Hawthorne yarn. I love that I have so much yarn. Sometimes I order stuff not knowing what I'm going to do with it, and then that's okay because I figure it out. So today I want to show you how to make this. These are the same Hawthorne weight of yarn, just a little bit of a different line. And I want to walk you through these first steps, because once you get past these first V-looking areas, it's simply repeating. So it's a really relaxing, fun. You can watch a new show. I've been watching Victoria, the PBS show lately, and absolutely adoring and loving that show. And this is a great project to enjoy that show and also whip up this beautiful shawl. So let's get started. Today I will be using a Furls H hook. I love the streamline, especially the swirl. It's just so nice. I'm addicted, and I think it shows online because my collection is growing. But I'm going to start, I've labeled it as color A and color B. That way you can just pick two yarns that you like and start with the one you want to start with. So it's not crucial that you start with the lighter color. I'm just going to label this color color A and this color color B, and you pick which ones you like best, in what order you like best. So for color A, I am going to tie almost a slip knot, but I'm not going to tighten down all the way because we are going to do a magic circle. I'm going to insert my hook and not tighten this down and single crochet into this magic circle. So the first thing we will do is chain one, and our chain one is not going to count as a stitch, but we will single crochet, chain two, and single crochet. Now, if you have a marker handy, I highly recommend using a stitch marker. And I'm going to show you why. I'm going to zoom in here and show you why. So with this stitch marker, we're going to place it, and I also picked these up on We Crochet. We're going to place it into that chain two space. This will help us know where our center increase space is. We will always be working our center increase into that chain two space, and this marker helps us keep track of that. For row two, we will turn and chain one, which I've already done, and then I will single crochet into the very first stitch, and then I'm going to chain one, and then I'm going to single crochet, chain two, single crochet all into that chain two space. So where my marker is, I want to go ahead and do a single crochet, chain two, and single crochet back into that same chain space, and then go ahead and place your marker into that chain two space. Helps us keep track of that center increase area. Then we will chain one and single crochet into the last stitch. And now we will turn our work, chain one, single crochet into the very first stitch, and now our next stitches will be worked in the chain one space from the previous row. So to work this, we will do a chain one and a single crochet and then a chain one. Then once we get to our stitch marker spot, we will work a single crochet, chain two, single crochet into that spot. So single crochet, chain two, single crochet into that center increase chain two space, mark that chain two again, chain one, and then in your chain one space, we will single crochet, chain one, and then we'll single crochet into that very last stitch. And now at this point, I will like to tighten that my beginning magic ring down a little bit more. Sometimes I don't tighten it for a couple rows because if I do it too tight, it's hard to see those stitches since we're working in such a small area. Now for rows 4 through 16, this is the cool part. This is where it gets quite easy on the repeats. We'll turn and do our chain 1 and single crochet into the first. Now we will do a chain 1 and working the rest of the stitches across. In every chain 1 space, we will single crochet and chain 1. Single crochet into the chain 1 space and chain 1. And then once we reach our center chain 2 space, we will work a single crochet, chain 2, single crochet, replace that marker for now. Once this gets to a V point, you may not need this marker anymore once you feel confident, but for now, I highly recommend just keeping track of that center chain 2 and then working back across this other side because we're starting to make this into a triangle. We will chain 1 and single crochet into the next chain 1 space from the previous row, chain 1, single crochet into the next chain 1 space from the previous row, chain 1, and then once you get to the very last stitch, you will simply single crochet into the very last stitch. So it's just simply a repeat of row 4, and you'll work that for through row 16. And I want to show you just one more time, just to make sure we've got that down. We will turn and chain 1 and single crochet into the very first stitch. Chain 1, and then into the first chain 1 space, you're going to single crochet, chain 1. Repeat that until your marker, doing a single crochet and a chain 1 into every single chain 1 space from the previous row. And then once we get to our chain 2 space, we will single crochet, chain 2, single crochet all into that chain 2 space. I'm going to move my marker up to the new chain 2 space. And now we will chain 1 and single crochet into the very next chain 1 space from the row below, chain 1, single crochet in the chain space. Do that all the way across, and then simply single crochet into the very last stitch. So build this out for the total of 16 rows, and you can already start to see where this is creating that V shape. After doing a few more rows, I also want to point out and mention that we are increasing on either side here because we are placing an extra chain space that we end up working on the next row. So if it becomes difficult for you to keep track, especially if you are watching a TV show and you don't really want to have to think about it, you can always take a stitch marker and place it in the first and then the last stitches of the row, and then you just know you're just going to work your chain 1s, your single crochet chain 1 in the chain 1 spaces all the way across to the center marked stitch, do your increase, and then across back down to the other side. And you don't have to worry about where is your first or last stitch placement, and it makes for an easy, relaxing pattern. Welcome back after working the first 16 rows in that stitch pattern repeat. And now it's time for us to add our color B, which I love choosing a vibrant one, but you can keep it neutral if you'd like. You can actually make it all in one color if you really prefer. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to fasten off color A because we're not going to need it for a little while. And I'm not going to carry it up the side simply because there's quite too many rows in between. I guess you could, but I think it would show and it might be best to cut and weave that in later. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to join color B, and then I'm going to chain 1. Now we are going to half double crochet into the very first stitch and chain 1. This is going to act as our increase, and now we are going to half double crochet into every stitch including every chain 1 space. So your next one will be worked into that chain 1 space, and we will work it all the way across until we get to our center decrease stitch marker. Now as we work every stitch, including the single crochet before the chain twos in this space, now that we're at the chain two space, I am going to do a half double crochet, chain two, half double crochet into that chain two space. And then once again, I'm going to place my stitch marker into that chain two space. And now we're going to half double crochet and stop right before our very last stitch, because we'll want to chain one before working the very last one. So set half double crochet until you get to your last stitch in this row. And now as we come to that last stitch, I'm going to make sure that I work a half double crochet in that last chain one space, and now I have one stitch left to work into, and I'm going to chain one and then work that last stitch. And now we will turn. And I like to chain one at the beginning of my half double crochet rows, but I don't pull that chain one tightly. I leave it about the height of a chain one, but if you prefer to chain two tightly, that works just as well. So for this next row, we are going to do our very first chain one and then half double crochet into the very first stitch. And then we are going to work a chain one, half double crochet into that chain space. And then we are going to work a little bit of a design along this row, but it's not hard. We're still just simply working the half double crochet and chain ones. So we're not adding any extra stitches, but we're just going to add a little bit of pizzazz to this row. So now we will do a chain one, skip one, half double crochet. And that's all we're going to do to repeat that until we get to the marker. So chain one, skip a stitch, half double crochet. Now that we've worked until here, we still have one stitch left that kind of needs to be worked. So we're going to do a chain one. And now our rest of our stitches will go in here. So we'll do a half double crochet, chain two, half double crochet. We'll move our stitch marker up to that chain two space. But if you do get comfortable and you can tell now where your point is and you're comfortable without a stitch marker, feel free to take it out. And then working back down this other side, we're going to be repeating our steps a bit, and we are going to be doing a half double crochet into the very first half double crochet after that center, chain one, skip one, half double crochet. We will work that to the end, and I'll show you what to do when you get to that last chain one space from the row below. Now as we get towards the end here, we still have one more stitch before our chain space, so we will chain one, and now we will do a half double crochet, chain one in the chain space, and a half double crochet into that very last stitch. And that's it for this row. Now here's the cool thing about this pattern. We have covered every row that you need to know. The remainder of the pattern is simply repeats of the rows that we've done to create this beautiful effect. So it's really, really easy, because from here on out, you already know what you're doing. Because for rows 19, 20, 21, and 22, we're just simply doing the half double crochets. And then here we'll repeat row 18. And then once again, we will repeat row 17 to create that section. And then we will just be doing blocks of repeat all the way down as we build this out, so you know all the stitches now to keep on going. And I'm also going to be including in the pattern, if you are a chart person, a chart of this first section where it stops here at this gray. So just this first section to give you an idea, if you're very visual, of how these stitches are worked together. So hopefully that's a little bit of an added helpful visual. I really hope you enjoy this pattern and you pick some fun colors that match your personality or your mood. And I'll come back, and I really hope you enjoy this pattern and you pick some fun colors that match your mood or your style, and you sit back, watch a show. I know right now I'm really enjoying the show Victoria. I highly recommend it on PBS, and keep on crocheting. Join me next time.